Why is it important that we still keep, our cultural heritage, the values that we've grown up with, give it a voice, as we seek to assimilate here? How does that translate to influence?
And I think that's changing, because one of the things that's really hot right now is when we talk about Afro beats, when it comes to culture and African food. I remember when I came to the US, when we cook, my roommates would be like, "What's that smell?" Now everyone's rushing to get fufu and everything. So I think that aspect is important culturally, but identifying ourselves, knowing our name. I would never change my name to make it convenient for you to pronounce my name. I go to so many functions, and yes, they're challenged with saying my name, but that's a good thing, because guess what? They're going to pause, and I'm going to teach them on what the right thing is.
Earlier on, diversity. There is so much diversity of the African continent, and whether it be Afro-Caribbean, whether it be from the east, west, to the north, to the south, our journey, our resilience, what really adds to the tapestry that is the African immigrant community and the African immigrant collective. So, even looking at this room, I know we have different people from different parts of the connect. And to me, that is powerful in its own right there. And so even as we step into today's session, I want to invite us to do three things. I want us to learn, I want us to listen, and then I also want us to act. So learn, listen, and act. And not just about taking the information that we will get from here, but really imagining what are we going to do with that information? Like, what strategies are we going to implement? What collaboration are we going to be a part of? What story are we going to lend our voices to? Because really, we're just beyond just a conference. I really see this as something at the start of something really powerful. Because even before the conference started, I was speaking to one of our amazing representatives here, and he did mention that there's power in collaboration, and it's only as much as one person can do. And if we don't learn how to advocate, when it's time to advocate, we wouldn't have the resources and the skills to be able to do that. And the time to ask for support is not when you want support. The time to ask for support is before you need the support. And so we're here to really learn, like, how can we really learn how to advocate? What are the places that we can go to? What are the things that websites we should go to, and things of that nature. So we are here not as just individuals, but as a collective voice, as African Americans, as Black Americans, Afro-Caribbean allies, all standing together with that one belief. And that belief is that there is power in unity. Whether it be in policy rooms, court rooms, medical rooms, boardrooms, our voice is powerful.
Thank you, Stella. I just want to give a brief overview of the day's flow of events. So we have a couple of panels, powerful panels that will be featured. Our opening panel will be about building power and shaping policy. We have two very powerful and influential representatives here with us that are going to be dropping lots of nuggets for us. Our discussion panel, which will follow, is focused on economic empowerment and the future of migration, and a few more powerhouses that will be represented on that panel. And we'll be closing the day's event with a fireside chat that'll feature Nnamdi, the executive director of the BIG, which is the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. And Nana's going to go through what it looks like to reimagine freedom and belonging when you're in a country that's not your home country. So this conference is only going to, we have some great speakers who will be imparting great knowledge, but it's only going to be as good as the audience engagement. So we encourage people to not only take information that later, but also ask questions, engage, network with people or other attendees as well. So even though you're online, please feel free to network in the chat. Let people know who you are, where you're diving in from, what you do. Our network is only as strong as the people in it. And so we need to know who our community is. And so, we can move forward.
And to just wrap that up, I want to challenge everyone here with one commitment. I feel like our speakers also have a challenge for everyone too, but I want to challenge everyone here with one commitment. And that is figure out what is that policy issue you want to champion. Like, what is that policy issue you want to champion? If you don't know what a policy issue is or policies there exist, you're definitely going to have that information before the end of today. Or a conversation that you want to keep going. Again, whether that be in the boardroom or whether that be in the classroom. That's why one of the things we emphasize as we talk about this event was it's not just for those who have political ambitions, it's for that mom or that dad or that career professional or that entrepreneur. Like, how do you advocate in places where you might be one of only or one of one? Or partnership you're ready to be with as well. So that's just the commitment, is everyone really leaving here with one thing at the takeaway. And I think I want to wrap up by saying this very popular African proverb, which is, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, we would go together. And to me, this is what togetherness really looks like, honestly. Together, we are rising with courage, with clarity, that conviction, knowing that when our voices come together, we can definitely shape systems and move the meeting in the right direction.
Yes. I echo everything said. I think the part that I want to uplift the most is for everyone to just identify one thing that you want to do at the close of this and be able to pull out the pieces of information you need to advance that goal. So even if your goal is to join your HOA, which is an important goal, because the HOA makes rules for where we live, and you want to be part of those decisions or that decision-making process, that is a goal, and it is not too small. And I think that's what I want to really buttress from what you said, is that no goal is too small. Representation matters. So it's one thing for these policies, whatever they are, like I said, from the HOA to Capitol Hill, policies are being passed down. We need to be involved in that decision-making process. We need to be at the table. We need to influence those policies. And this is what this conference is all about. And that's what I hope, and I know Stella will join me in this, people take away from this.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, that's our wrap up for our opening remarks. And we'd love to invite our beautiful MC to take us further in today's conference. Can we put a hand together for her, please?
Thank you, everyone. Well, I am feeling very inspired today. This room is not virtually and in person. That should not be taken lightly. I'm very excited for today's conversation. My name is Nancy Taya Arakbaye, and I want to just thank the organizers for putting this space together. It's one thing to be seen by someone, and then another to create a space for others to see you in this community, but also teaching us how to be seen by the world. Africa deserves better, and this particular space is ensuring that it's done. So again, thank you to our organizers for putting on this space. I'm really excited for today's conversation. I don't know about you all sitting here and those online, but this panel is very powerful. It is entitled Building Power, Shaping Policy. Now we know the power and how it moves rooms and it moves situations. It's the role of African immigrants in advancing justice and equity. This opening panel grounds the conference in collective vision and strategy. It explores how African immigrant communities can shape local, state, and national policies through civic engagement, advocacy, and coalition building. You'll also have an opportunity, those in the audience physically and virtually, to ask questions. I first want to bring up our moderator, Dr. Ihenacho, and I'm going to read your amazing bio. I'm going to let people know who is in this space, who is the organizer, and who's going to be moderating this panel. If you can just give me a moment. Okay. Nnamdi Ihenacho, he's the founder of African Immigrant Collective, an organization dedicated to empowering African immigrants across the United States. He leads that bridge opportunity gaps through mentorship, workforce development, and professional training, helping immigrants thrive and find their voice in new communities. Under his leadership, AIM has representation and social impact within the African diaspora. He is also passionate about building an inclusive future. Nnamdi continues to champion spaces where African immigrants are seen, heard, and equipped to lead with confidence and purpose. If you can help me clap it up for Dr. Thank you so much. Bear with me, guys. I have multiple things up. Okay. I also want to welcome another one of our, we have a moderator and one of our speakers for today, a Representative Segun Adeyina, the Georgia House of Representatives District 110. State Representative Segun Adeyina was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 2022. He represents District 110 in Gwinnett County. With over 25 years of experience in IT program and project management for Fortune 500 companies, Representative Adeyina is also the executive director of the Nigerian American Public Advisory Committee, where he promotes voter education in immigrant communities. He is a dedicated community leader who has served on multiple boards, including the Gwinnett NAACP and Nigerians in Diaspora organization. His outstanding service has earned him numerous awards, including U.S. President's Lifetime Achievement Award and the Dr. Martin Luther King Drum Major Award. If we can give it up for Representative Segun Adeyina. Thank you for being here today. The last speaker, we'll have this two conversation here. I look forward to this conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And thank you for all you do as well for being here. First of all, again, I'll say thank you to everyone who adjusted on the fly with us with the change of venue and making this work. So truly grateful to everyone. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I'm a rookie moderator. I'm used to just talking. This time I took on the challenge to moderate a panel, but we're excited about the conversation. So
Just go easy on.
I don't know hard-hitting question. This is a campaign trail. Well, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm excited about this, just the what we have to talk about today, building power, shaping policy, and our role in advancing, equity. And the first question I have is an important one because last year we had a general election. There was a very Africans. We had people across different party lines. People back home supported a particular candidate. People here had preferences. So my question to you is, how do we create a unified civic voice, that transcends the differences, that we have and still pushes for justice?
So let me start by saying, as an African immigrant, and why I really love coming on this platform, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I'm really honored that any time the African Immigrant Collective calls me to represent and have conversation. I do that because the work you do is so important to what's important in our community. And looking at your question, the first thing we have to realize is where we as a community have made so many strides professionally, educationally, but what we really need to do is come from a power of influence, turning our presence into influence. And that's really what we're doing. Going back to unifying our voices can be unified across platforms. You could be Republican, you could be Democrat, you could be independent. But at the end of the day, what's really important are the issues that impact our community. And understanding that when we have our voice is really on the issue at hand and not necessarily the party perspective. But as a Democrat, I must say, you also have to look at what is that party doing for you? What are the policies that are impacting and creating those opportunities? At the end of the day, you really have to support the platform that's going to speak for you.
Thank you very much. So it's important to be intentional in how we align, or align our affiliations, especially when it comes to the political conversations. What questions should we be asking? Or for an African immigrant who is trying to get more involved in politics or is thinking of, okay, I need to vote, what questions should we be asking of the two big parties, independents? What are the questions I should have as somebody who wants to be more immersed in the political process?
I mean, it's really easy. I mean, look at what's happening in immigration today, right? Look at the immigration policy of this current administration. I hate to say it, but it's outrageous. When you're pulling people over for a traffic violation that happened many years ago, I mean, that's action enough for you to understand as an African immigrant in this community what policies you're going to support. I have a constituent who's a Liberian American. He has been detained. He's been detained for since January 17 in ICE, in an ICE facility. He's a double amputee. He came in when he was a child. And because of a crime that he committed when he was really young, called a youthful exuberance, it was a robbery. He served time. He went due process, served time, 9 months, and was released because he served time and he paid the price. But unfortunately, in this country, when you as an immigrant commit a crime, no matter what due process you've had and you've served your time, it's still on your record as an immigrant. And that's what they use to detain you. And after he had been here 40 some years, this came back and haunted him, and now it's been in detention. And we have to advocate as a community for injustices like that. So when you see something like that happen with this current administration, you tell me, is it the right administration you have to support? It's what impacts us every day. Policies impact us every day. And that's what we have to pay attention to, not just what I'll tell you, but what's actually happened.
Policies impact us every day. I think that's one thing we need to have that in mind as we go about these things. We control, but we don't realize how much the impact of all of this, the power plays, the people in authority, council and the county and all of that. But I want to change gears a little bit. Georgia is growing in terms of African diaspora here in Georgia. I want to say we lead in a lot of metrics for African immigrants. So we have people from different states watching, move to Atlanta, move to Georgia. Thank you. What lessons can other states learn from how African immigrants are organizing and mobilizing politically? I think we have the most number of elected officials of African descent here in the state of Georgia. What message can we send to other states?
So is participate, right? We're actually in Georgia, we've gone from a presence of not just participating and being in the presence of either meetings or gatherings, but a lot of us in our community are actually leading those advocacies and those gatherings and those opportunities, just like this platform. You're leading. You're no longer just showing up and being in the audience. But when we participate, people hear our voices clear. People know the things that matter to us as a community.
So get involved. Don't just stand by the sideline. Before we continue, I want to recognize Representative Gabriel Koye walked in earlier. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here and coming out to support. Many African immigrants come to the US with a deep sense of civic duty rooted in our country of origin. We wear our nationality or where we come from. It's a badge of honor per se for us. And that translates to how we interpret culture here. How can we harness that spirit to strengthen the democracy here in the US?
I would say easily by being present. There's a saying we have in Nigeria, and I always say this in any gathering that I am, and then I interpret it in what we are doing here in Georgia. So in Nigeria, we say Nigeria no dey carry, but they carry last. And Georgia is known to be the #1 state for doing business. So I always say Georgia always they carry. So we have to take our culture and influence the communities that we live in. And I think that's a good saying, so that it just empowers us to know that having a culture is a rich asset, but then applying it in our communities is also very critical. And for me, that's just phenomenal when you hear that. You go to any gathering and people say Nigeria they carry. So from our kids, so that's something that continues to go on generation to generation.
Yeah.
So we need to implore that and community.
Yes, and I think it's important to highlight all of that culture, those values, they make us who we are. It's very commonplace among our people, especially Africans, to want to drop that completely. In a way, like in a bid to adapt or get Americanized, like we almost want to maybe it's the acceptance that we're looking for, or I want to speak to that. Like, why is it important that we still keep our cultural heritage, the values that we've grown up with? Give it a voice, as we seek to assimilate here. You know, how does that translate
Well,
to influence?
And I think that's changing because one of the things that's really hot right now is when we talk about Afrobeats, when it comes to
Yeah.
culture and African food. I remember when I came to the US, when we cook, everybody's food would be like, what's that smell? Now everyone's rushing to get fufu and everything. So I think that aspect is important culturally, but identifying ourselves, knowing our names. Like I would never change my name to make it convenient for you to pronounce my name. I go to so many functions, and yes, a challenge with saying my name, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because guess what? They're gonna pause, and I'm gonna teach them on what the right thing is. And eventually people will get used to that name. For instance, we have other communities that their names are way harder than us, like Shabanovsky or something like that. I mean, that used to be a hard name, but it's now easy. So we shouldn't shy away from who we are, because even our names mean something. Oluwasegun means God is victorious. So I can even tell them when I'm on the floor that this bill that I'm presenting is going to be victorious because of my name, right? So we have to challenge ourselves. We have to embrace our culture. And then, you know, you can even name other people in your community, can give them names too. That's how you share the culture.
Yes. Yeah, I think just where this, we had this, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, we just had the Diwali celebration for the Indians. And it's amazing how that has become so mainstream. And
Completely.
It's part of the culture. The work stops to accommodate that. And I think we can, that's influence.
I was so impressed because I've always celebrated Diwali, but I went to the temple in Gwinnett. It was in Lower. And I would say there were close to 3,000 people there.
Wow.
And that temple itself was built just pure marble. And everyone that came there just walked off the street, went in the temple, and saw the culture, saw the richness. And then people like me and you, why can't we do that?
Yes, we can. It starts with us. It starts with us. I have a different question for you. You are a member of the House of Representatives. That's representation, one would say. We have a good number of, you know, reps and elected officials. But personally, I don't think it's translated to us being a stronger voice. How do we change that? You know, so we're making a push for getting more people involved, getting our people to step up in different places. And one of the core things for us at the African Collective is we're here now. Let's contribute to this ecosystem to make sure we are contributing positively to it, and we're doing it. We want to enhance the influence that we have. How do we go from making sure it's not just about we're represented and then, well, but there's some of you in here, so why you should be okay with that? How do we translate that? How do we go from representation to influence to making real change?
By being involved. It's not just running for state rep, but being involved in your school board, being involved in your PTA, being involved in your homeowners association, volunteering, whether it's Meals on Wheels or whether it's mentorship. That is being involved because you're a decision maker. You're no longer just an observer. And those things make a difference because when I look at my children today and how they're participating and leading organizations in their schools or their colleges, is because we've created that culture in the home of always being involved. So we have to do that in our communities. We can't shy away from doing that because those other people that are involved, they're making decisions for you and me.
Yes.
But when you're involved, you're making decisions for those people and for you.
Yes, sir. You know, well, I do this thing every Thursday where I go live on LinkedIn. I call it Driving Beyond Borders. And this Thursday, because I wanted to promote this program a little bit more, and I was talking about the importance of being at the table where decisions are being made. Because if you're going to be at the table one way or another. You're either sitting at the table or you are on the menu. So it's going to be decisions made about you, or you're going to be part of making the decision. So you just said something that's I want to highlight a bit more. And that is from a family structure perspective, making it a thing where even we take our children to council meetings and letting them get involved from young and make it a family culture. So it's not it's not absurd for them to, like, political conversations or even just the infrastructure around government is not strange to them. I think it's important to highlight that because it's something that gets, even for me, I think being in this journey, I've learned it's giving me a little bit more of, there's a consciousness I have now with all of these things that I want to make sure I'm teaching my kids and making sure they are aware and involved as well. So I'm glad you said that. What advice would you give to first and second generation African immigrants who want to run for office, for feel disconnected from the traditional political structures? And I'll add to this question. So in Nigeria, where I'm from, and going into politics has a stigma. It's almost like it's reserved or it's, and when I look at what's going on with so many other African countries, you would see why decent people might not want to go into politics, or people who have different kind of ambitions. They feel like it's dirty. I don't want to be a part of this. And now we're in the US. This is home now. I feel like some of us still need a rewiring of our mindsets about politics, the perspective that we have around politics and being in office. What would you tell that African person who has, or that African immigrant who needs to actually get involved, who can make a difference? And what would you tell them about getting involved and the political infrastructure here, why it's different from what we're used to, and how they should go about it?
Well, no democracy is easy. And if you look at the current climate in the US, if we look back in the 60s, as a Black man in America, as a Black person in America, you could not vote. Struggled and died for us to be where we are today. So I won't say politics is different. I think politics depend on the leadership and the mindset of the people. Because today, if I look at America of today, politically where we are today, we are worse than what is happening in Africa. And I say that because we know better. We have a history of exclusivity, discrimination, and intimidation. And those are the acts that are happening in American politics today. When I look back in Nigeria, my father was an orthopedic surgeon, but he was also an advocate politician. He was involved in helping write the free healthcare in Western Nigeria. He was involved and he ran, and yes, politics could be brutal in the sense that it was very selective in Nigeria, where they might tell you step down, step back for this person.
Yes.
And he did, but he always stayed involved, and that's what encouraged me to participate. So whether it's here or back home or wherever in the world you're involved in a democracy, be true to participate. It's also important. The other thing is we have to create our own tables. The one thing I know this is your platform, but I'm being real intentional. I'm not trying to. You created a table. We have to create our own tables. This platform, African Immigrant Collection, is creating our own tables. When we create our own tables, people are going to come to our tables and have conversation on our terms. So I very much like what you're doing, because we're having this discussion on our terms, no longer someone else's terms, and giving us restrictions to work in a box. We're working outside the box, and we can do anything that we feel is relevant to what the time and the moment that we're in.
So, thank you very much, sir. So let's create our own tables. That's powerful. I have another question here for just with how do we work with our African American brothers, when it comes to, and then other immigrant groups as well. One of the things that we are very proud of here is we've been very intentional about including, not just the African immigrants, population, but just the Black immigrant, everybody in that family. Attorney Cassandra is not African. As Asia, we have, African Americans who are part of our knowledge partners, who are part of our impact partners, and even on the board. So we've tried to be intentional to make sure we are connecting and we're connected within the community. But this, eventually we are one. If we go back far enough, I feel like there's a relationship. And so how do we work together? What advice would you give all of these groups when it comes to?
Well, I could talk about that for another hour, I'll be honest with you. But But here's the truth. So my background, my mom's Caribbean. My mom's from St. Vincent and Grenadines. A lot of people don't know that because, of course, my Nigerianness is always like. But here's the truth. You know, we're Black.
Yes.
And we're immigrants. We intersect with our African American brothers and sisters because we're all Black. And it is actually a history in Georgia that dates back into 1800 when a ship was came down to the shores of Savannah, Simon's Island to be exact, where the slaves on that ship were primarily from Nigeria. In fact, they were Igbo, and they called that place Igbo's Landing because that was the first revolution, the first opportunity that we had to fight back as Black people for being enslaved, and it happened in Simon's Island in Georgia. They overpowered the ship captain and his sailors, and some of them started, about 100 of them started swimming back to the direction of coming from because they didn't want to be slaves. Unfortunately, about 12 of them died. The rest were captured and brought ashore. But that was the first revolt as Black people to injustice. And that started here in Georgia. So that's why we're connected to people in Georgia and people from Haiti and the Caribbean, because slavery brought us to those places. So when we look back in history at what happened, there's a direct correction. So collaboration is completely important because our journeys and our destinies have been tied together. And the only way we can move forward is by sharing those stories and by passing them on to the next generation so that our struggle is not stopped. And we have to continue to advocate for those issues that impact our community.
Thank you very much for sharing that, sir. That's powerful. And trust people who to be the ones to give bail against the behavior. There needs to be a documentary on that. That's incredible. Yes.
This 03.
Wow.
So there was no Nigerian.
Wow.
So say Nigerian like
That is incredible. That's incredible. We'll definitely love to be a part of that process. I don't know how we get involved with reclaiming that space, but I would definitely love for Kevin Collective to be a part of that story. That's incredible. Those need to be highlighted and totally. So one last thing for you before you leave. What's if you could leave the audience with one action item to advance justice and equity for African immigrants, what would it be?
I'm going to put a quick plug in there. It's not shameless. It's intention. Segun for Georgia. Segun for Georgia. Follow me on all sorts of platforms. Because the conversation starts with reaching out and telling me what's happening in your home. If you need a bill, you know, what's happening in your community. How can I, as a legislator, help? If you don't talk to me, I can never help. And that's one way. The second thing is, what's very important is be involved. What's happening in America today is, as a Black immigrant, I'm appalled that my state government, my colleagues across the aisle, and I'm being a Democrat, I have to be, my colleagues across the aisle are supporting injustice in how we treat each other as the immigrant community. And I want us to talk and have those conversations in every community and let our leaderships know it is wrong. Because if it's not happening in your home, or if you're not being impacted today, you're going to be impacted tomorrow. You shouldn't wait for injustice to reach your doorsteps. You should act now. The conversation of the African Immigrant Collective is so important, and I'm glad that you're taking it into schools. But we need to find a way in taking it into our homes. Not just community centers, but it should be a conversation at every table. I implore that more people sign up, encourage, this conversation continue, because our future depends on the experiences of today that will become history, and the opportunities of tomorrow that will be the roadmap that we draw for future generations.
Thank you very much, sir. This has been an incredible conversation. And just before we get our no new question, you have questions online? Oh, okay. All right. So while we're compiling questions, you talked about just continuing the conversation. We are launching programs next year to actually do training and get our people more informed on actual practical steps they can take to get involved. So I wanted to start plugging that.
But let me also add one other thing. Your support structure matters. My darling wife of 23 years has been my biggest supporter. If not for her, and I have to say that, whether she's watching or not, I have to say that because I wouldn't have the opportunity to do this if she didn't support it. My children, my parents, my siblings, just my friends. You have to make sure you also have a support network that believes in what you're doing.
So that's the questions. Okay, yeah.
All right, so I hope I can sit down. All right. Oh, thank you so much for this amazing session. Yeah, so I have a very simple question. There's like a statistics, right, that an average Nigerian, so to say, in the US has a master's degree, right? Which this actually gives us like an understanding that most I know of Nigerians, right, coming to the United States, like, coming as like a student, right? It's like the highest set of group of people in the United States with a PhD are like Nigerians, right? So I want to ask, how can students be involved in like policy making and all of these talks that you've mentioned today? Are there like restrictions? There are visa classes, right? Are there restrictions in your involvement based on your visa class, right? And also, how can students get involved in shaping the policy?
Great question. So first, the only people that can vote are US citizens in this country. But it doesn't stop you from participating as a resident in this country, whether you're a green card holder or H-1B or a student. You can advocate. You can intern. We have an internship program at the Georgia Capitol. I'm also the secretary for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, which is the largest Black caucus in the country. And we have an internship program where if you're a student studying in Georgia, from January through March, during session, we have an internship program. So you can apply by going to Georgia Legislative Black Caucus website and applying for an internship, and you get an opportunity to learn. So you're not restricted, and then you can volunteer. I mean, there are different groups you can volunteer with. There's a group I used to be the national president, the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee. Can volunteer for that platform. There's so many organizations out there that advocate on behalf of Africans. You can participate. So that's one way to get involved as a non-citizen.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Are there any other questions that are online? Right here, wonderful. What barriers do African immigrants face in connecting with the political process, and how can we overcome them? That is from Tiffany.
Again, that's sort of the previous question. Get involved. Get involved.
Here's one, it's anonymous. What's one policy area, whether it's education, immigration, housing, workforce, etc., where you believe African immigrants could have the most immediate impact?
Just said it, workforce. Being that we're identified as one of the largest groups in terms of impacting education in the United States of America, we should take our experience and mentor others. There are a lot of young people that need mentors. And I think by us participating and letting people know, you can't take an education from someone else. You can't, if someone gets their PhD, and you can't take a PhD from them. They earned it. So what we have to do is challenge ourselves to take our time. One of the things I did when I was much younger, when I look that young now, a mentor for Big Brothers Big Sister. I had twin boys that were my mentees. And I've spent time with them and shared some of my experiences. So again, we have to get in the communities, we have to get in organizations and lend that time to people who don't have that experience.
Okay, and I'm gonna give you two questions actually. The first one, in your experience, what makes coalition work and what makes it fall apart? And then the second question is from Chioma, and she says, strategy is critical and important. What are the strategies that can be shared and implemented across states to civically engage African immigrants?
Right. What's the first question?
The coalition, what makes it
Coalition.
work and what makes it fall
All right.
apart?
So coalitions are important. What it makes it work is It's things like this, having conversations, having events and activities, being consistent. That's what makes it work. What makes it fall apart? Opposite. You have this event today, and then you wait, you stop, and maybe 2 years later you bring it back. So I used to run a platform called the Nigerian Reunion, and we met every July 4th for 19 years. It was the biggest platform, whether it was Afro beats or just connecting or people meeting their significant others. And we did it every July 4th. People loved it. And we did stop it. But there's been so much demand to bring it back because we were consistent and intentional and people benefited a lot from it. So again, it's being consistent and staying true to your cause. Now, on the second question.
The strategies, civic engagement across
Okay.
states.
So one of the things with the Nigerian American Public Affairs Committee that we focused on was we wanted to get more Nigerians and friends of Nigerians who believe in supporting the issues that we're concerned about. So we made sure that we elected and supported individuals like that. We also had a voters registration drive of 18 million, it was 1 million Africans across the board to register them to vote, which is currently ongoing. So you have a goal. It might not be today, it could be tomorrow, but being consistent in meeting that goal and setting a program that everyone can relate to. Because if 1 million Africans are registered for African immigrants are registered to vote in this country, and I'm talking about those who are naturalized or were born here by recent generation Africans, you would see the difference in elections. Because municipal elections are going on right now across the country. You can win by one vote. It takes 1, 2, 3. I mean, those votes are very minimal to win those seats. So as a collective, as an organization, and I like the word collective again, as a collective, you can make a difference in who represents your interests.
Thank you. Are there any other questions in the room? Any questions in the room? I didn't want to take all virtual questions and not give you all space because we're inclusive around here. Okay. No? There you go.
Okay, thank you so much for being here and also spreading the word about policy. Now, for young adults like me, I am so far from politics and policy because I'm like, I don't want to be involved and it's just too much going on. And it's so crazy that, so I got a home in Jonesboro, moved to Jonesboro. Someone that was she was running for city council. She came and I was rushing somewhere and she's like, can I post a sign on your lawn and stuff? I'm like, go ahead, do it. And why are you running? And she told me about why she's running and just learning about her on a basic human level and what she wants to do for young adults. And also the city of Jonesboro in general was very, very important. And that's what connected me to her. The next day, I went to our Jonesboro City Council Community Hall and I sat there and they were talking about property rates for what they're going to do the next year and what they're going to increase our taxes and all these things. I didn't even know that you can be involved in these conversations. I just thought, okay, your property tax comes in every single year, you just pay it and there's nothing that you can actually do about that. So what is the one thing that you will tell young adults like me, apart from just being African, just in general? Why should you actually care apart from just generally on a very micro level? Why is it important for you to go vote and go to the city hall meetings every single day? Even my HOA, they sent me an email. They said, hey, you can't actually post a sign out in my lawn. I'm like, I'm confused. What are the laws and policies that have to do with that? So what is your encouragement, words of encouragement to young adults like me, and what policies that are currently implemented right now that we should kind of care about and also spread the word to our colleagues as well?
Wow. So you did the right thing. You went to your city hall meeting to listen as to what was going on. So we should keep in mind, all laws come from somewhere. They start with you and me. You can come to me as a constituent to say, hey, I have an issue with this, whether it's putting signs on my lawn. If your HOA has a rule where you can't put signs there, you have an issue, you can come to me and I can work with you on writing a law to challenge that. But if you're not involved or aware, then you can't participate. So as a young person, actually, let me use a good example that we just came up with a law that passed of not high school kids, middle school, elementary, banning their phones in the classroom. And I'm sure that got a lot of reaction from kids who said, hey, why would they ban our phones? But for us, we heard a lot of feedback from our teachers, from our parents, and some kids that this was distractive. But if you want to change that law and you feel that is wrong, you can participate by talking to your legislators. You can come to the House and listen, because we do, when we do debate the bills on the floor, committee meetings. You can participate by showing up. Again, the same on the local level, whether it's the county, whether it's the city, attend their meetings. That is one way to get involved and know what's going on in your community. Every law or policy that's implemented is discussed in some meeting that is public and open to you, because you as a citizen, you as a constituent, you as a resident have a right to know what's going on in your community. So participate, attend meetings, and be involved.
Thank you so much. This was a question. I almost missed it. This will be the final question from our audience member in the room.
Just to piggyback off of her question and to what you were saying about, students who are coming here and might not have the actual status to be able to vote. Can you still be able to be involved and work on creating some of that legislation with your representatives without being a full citizen, without being able to vote on those laws yourself?
Yeah, you might be a subject matter expert studying or had some exposure to whether it's mental health or some field you're in. You could approach me as a legislator and say, hey, these mental health issues, and this is from a subject matter expert perspective. You could educate me on those issues. The African Immigrant Collective could come up with a panel to discuss issues on affordable housing and how it impacts our community and what are some solutions, right? You don't have to be a citizen to sit on that panel. You just have to be someone that has resources or understands the issue or be a subject matter expert to help educate someone like me as a lawmaker. Because trust me, as lawmakers, we don't know everything. We lean on you to come up with some of the advocacy items that we need or some of the strategies that we need. So we lean on people in the community because everyone experiences the same challenges, right? So one of the things I look to do is working more with this platform and others, because I think the work you do is so important and so vital to our community that conversations need to be had. And then we reach out to, subject matter experts, bring that information, and then we can write better law that impacts everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your questions, those that are online and those that are in the room. Again, this is not the end. There's an advocacy academy that's coming in 2026. You have an opportunity today, whether you're in person or online, to join the community. There was a QR code that was put up earlier. We'll make sure that we get it back on the screens. This is the beginning. You heard the message that kept being echoed. Get involved, get involved, get involved, get involved. So this is your opportunity to get involved and stay involved. I do want to turn it over to Representative Okoye. He has a few words and then I'll turn it back over to Nnamdi and then we'll conclude the panel.
I'm not used to sitting and talking. But thank you for this opportunity. I just wanted to add to what has been said and also to encourage the African Immigrant Collective to not stop. Because the problem we have been having is we get started, but we don't finish. And this journey is not going to finish anytime soon. We're really looking for you to grow from where you are today. But listening to the presentations, I just wanted to chip in a few things. I keep hearing about the barriers here and there. The only barrier is in your mind. That's all. If you can think of it, you can do it. I will give you an example. When I was first elected as Democratic Party chairman in Gwinnett County, I heard from Nigerians all over the world. And they each started with the same question. How did you do it with your accent? First of all, I heard when you were asking about people trying to Americanize, and I'm what to Americanize. This is me. My accent is my identity. That's what makes me who I am. But then, here was my answer though. If you bring somebody from New York down here, they have an accent. If you bring somebody from neighboring Alabama down here, they have an accent. If you bring somebody from California down here, they have an accent. So if you don't sound like me, you have an accent. I want you to leave this room knowing that you don't have an accent. I lived in New Jersey. I'm calling it New Jersey, right? They have an accent. The Italians have an accent. The Jews have an accent. Everybody. Yours must not be an impediment. That's what I want to get out. The last one, how we relate to our brothers and sisters in the African American community. Don't let the division. It's only imaginary. They are no different than you. The fact that they were taken from our land involuntarily, we have done the same thing they did. We left our land and we're here. Okay? They came a long time ago and they Americanized. They are no different than any of us. Because if you traced it way back, some of them today may be your uncles, your cousins, the same blood, are they different? They are not. Circumstances. And also, you leave here knowing that these people, if you are subjected to what they have been subjected to, you're not going to come out on the other end the same person. So we must always respect that and remember that they are answering Williams and Joneses today. They could have been Adebola and Anwar, which is my middle name.
That's
Okay.
right.
So let's just keep that in mind. The only barrier is in your mind. Get it off. If you get it off and get involved, you'll accomplish whatever else you set your mind to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Adeyina. Thank you, President Okoye. And I said this middle name is Honor. I said, yes, he speaks for the people. That's what Honor means.
So we're gonna take just a quick break, voting break, restroom break, all the break. And we are gonna have to be all back here. And I just want to remind you all, a quick couple of things. This panel session was really about identity.